Hey everybody, I'm Jason and welcome back to From Tree to Lumber. This is the third video in my series documenting the building of my new sawmill shed.
We're going to pick up right where we left off last week. The posts and the beams have all had their mortise and tenons cut, and now it's time to cut and install the knee braces, which are really important because they stabilize the building side to side.
This is my first post. This is going to be my experiment post. It's the one in the back corner. First thing I want to do is cut it to its final length. So I plan on the back beam being 7 feet off the ground, so I'm cutting it off at 7 feet. I'm going to be doing all my work out here in the sawmill yard from now on. I brought the generator out. It's just too much of a pain in the butt to move these beams all over the place. Plus it's rained a little bit and I don't want to drive the tractor across the lawn. So that's fine. That's what generators are for, right? All right, the next thing I want to do is I've got to fit this post back into its into the beam, the mortise and tenon here. Shouldn't be too bad. I got these fitting fairly nicely. Okay, so the reason I fit this post back into the beam is because you might recall there was a little bit of the tenon I had to kind of eat away at because this beam is actually a little bit more than 6 inches. None of these beams are going to be the same. They're all going to be just a little bit different because I cut them by hand on the sawmill and there's just going to be a little bit of variation. So I want to know exactly where this edge is because the corner brace depends on the measurement from this corner out, right? It's going to be a 24-inch brace, so I want to make sure I get it right. So instead of guessing, measuring, kind of guessing, I'm going to just take a chisel like so. I'm going to put it right up against the edge, give it a nice tap. Great, and that's where I'm going to measure from. There you can see the mark right there. All right, so I'm going to measure over 24 inches, and that will be the far edge of the brace. And what I'm going to do is I don't really trust this stupid little thing here, so I'm going to move this down, and I'm going to set the 2-foot mark. I'm going to put exactly on my little mark, and then I'm just going to go over 2 feet. And again, I'm going to use this chisel to mark where the edge of this mortise for the brace is going to go. Perfect. And from here, I'm going to put my mortising jig lined up with that mark. And I'm going to secure it. Remember, this is the reference side. So we'll just tighten that down. Perfect. So I'm going to use a 4x4, but it's a little bit bigger than a 4x4. I'll figure out the size once I get the mortise in. The idea being that I'm going to make it so that it uses the entire 6-inch size of the mortise for it, okay? All right, same procedure with the post. Put it on the 2-foot mark. Put a little weight on the tape so it doesn't move. And then 2 feet out, this is the reference side here. Take our chisel, set it exactly at 2 feet. Right there. Just give it a little tack. All right, then we'll go through the whole thing again.
So the mortise for these knee braces differs from the mortises from the posts going into the beam in that they have to add this little housing. Now the point of that is that it kind of gives a nice hard edge for the brace to sit on so that it's an exact measurement and it will be exactly square when it's done. Now that I've got the mortise and the housing done, I know the exact size that the knee brace has to be, and it's going to be 4 inches wide and 4 5/8 inches high, right? It's on a 45-degree angle. I really didn't want to change the size of my mortises. You know, I've got the jig made up already, so it's just as easy to fit the size of the knee brace to the mortise.
Okay, here we are. Got my 4 braces cut, at least the blanks. Also cut some 1x1s that I'm gonna kind of whittle down into pegs. That's another video, another day. But yeah, all looks good. White oak, nice solid stuff. Right out of firewood. The ends of these braces are probably the most complicated joints I'm gonna make on this whole thing. And honestly, they're not that complicated. So what I've decided to do is I'm gonna have to cut these with my little hand saw. The way they go, my router just isn't gonna have anything to stabilize on. And I'm pretty sure I can get away with it with the saw. So we'll just see how it goes. Again, I've got lots of wood, so we'll give it a shot on this one. And hey, if it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. But I'm pretty sure it'll be okay. So the first thing I need is this 45-degree angle right here. So I made up this this plastic thing, which is exactly 2 inches, and I'm going to use that instead of measuring because it's probably more accurate this way, right? I want the tenon to be universally parallel, so that's why I'm using the base here instead of measuring from the top. You know, my sawmill's set up pretty well, so this should be awfully close, but you know, there's always a difference between theory and reality, right? Let me make sure that this blade is square. So I want to set this up as close as possible to the right depths. And that's awfully close, maybe just a little bit too far. You know, if it's a little bit shy, then I can go a little bit deeper. You know, it'll save me chiseling if I get it just about perfect, right? I'd say that's awfully close. So let me just make a cut and see how it goes. Okay, so that's the basic layout. I did make a mistake. This here should have extended up to a square. That's okay. I've got lots of length on this, so I'll see if this fits, and then I'll just cut it back so that this is all correct. But for the first one, it's all right. I don't mind. Better to make a mistake when it's long than short, right? Yep, that's good. Staying out just a little bit so it's snug there, and it's not snug there, so I'd say that's about right. Yeah, there's room there for it, just a little bit over there, so I'm just gonna have to take a chisel and just thin that out just a little bit on the tenon portion, and I think we're gonna have it. That wasn't a bad first attempt. But we need to move this over quite a bit so that I can square this up here, right? So what I need to do is move it over 1.5 inches. Well, that's good. Then I can get that properly done. Okay, there's my finished tenon for the brace. It's just a touch more than two-ish inches thick. Okay, because I'm sinking it in 1/2 inch, it's only got a 2.5 inch depth, right? Because this part sits in. The most important joints actually on this whole thing are this face and this face, because those seat up against the either the post or the beam. The tongue, honestly, as long as it's kind of snug in there, it doesn't really matter that much. It just gets a pin that draws it nice and tight, and it's this surface and that surface that really matter. So let's see how it goes. Yeah, that's definitely better. That'll draw down. If I hit it with a hammer, or if I lift it, it'll go into place. So, okay, now I just got to do the other end. Now to calculate the length of this brace, I have to use that corner right there as my measuring point, and then that should be, if old Pythagoras is right and everything is square and the world turns as it should, I think it's 33 7/8. I'm going to double check that, but I'm pretty sure that was the number. And then I just have to reconstruct all of this on that end. Okay, got it fit in. So I discovered that I made a mistake, and I had put this opening on this side, but this is actually my reference side over here, so it was backwards. Live and learn, right? It's not going to matter, but yeah. Okay, so what I'm going to try to do now is put all these together. It's kind of sprinkling rain right now, so I hope I can get this done. I really want to test this and see how close it is. So I guess the idea here is you put this side in first, right? Oh, it looks good. Here's the real test. Oh my God, that's pretty close. It's awfully close. That's close, man. I don't believe it. That's perfect, actually. So check it out. That's a nice tight fit there. That's a nice tight fit there. And then this corner is just a little bit off, but you know what? I'll bet you there's a little bit there too. I'll bet you when you put the pegs in and reef that baby down, that squares right up. That's awesome. So happy. Look at that. All right, so I got rained out yesterday, but that's fine because I finished what I wanted. So I have kind of been thinking about the way that whole thing went. It wasn't too bad. It took a little longer than I wanted, and it wasn't kind of as accurate as I would have liked. So I decided to make a few changes, and I've definitely learned a few things. And number one is, although this saw is very convenient, it's really not very accurate. You know, this base is not bad, but it's really, really hard to get a nice square cut. You know, it's off just a little bit one way or the other, and that little bit really causes trouble in the end. So what I'm going to do is go back to my router. So I was having trouble with it because as you go off the corner, it's kind of shaky. But this is the router sled that I use for flattening wood in my shop, and I'm going to just use it to cut my 45s, and it should improve things dramatically. The other change that I made is to run the remainder of these braces through my thickness planer, just to get a nice crisp edge, okay? And also just to make sure that they're all going to be the same thickness. That way I don't have to mess around with the router settings as much. Once I get it figured out and dialed in, it'll be good for all of them. So hopefully that'll speed things up. And I really like to automate things and to make them as efficient and repeatable as possible. So I've got a bit of a precision bend, I have to admit. All right, there's my first tenon. That's really nice compared to the stuff I made last night, I'll tell you. The edges are nice and crisp. It's definitely square. Absolutely 2 inches, and it's just about perfect, actually. Okay, it was a good day of brace making. Started to lay out where the mortises are going to go, and they line up beautifully with these new braces, as I guess they should. I even checked the distance from outside to outside at the top and at the bottom, and they're within about a 1/16 of an inch. I can't believe it. So yeah, you know what? Theory does meet reality, I guess. So that's going to be all I'm going to do today, but tomorrow I'm going to start cutting these mortises. So far, these braces are they're fitting in just beautifully. No issues at all. Just for this centerpiece here, because I'm using a 3-inch tongue on a 6x6, I have to just nip off about a 1/4 inch on the end of these so that they don't bounce in the middle. You know, especially if this 6x6 was to shrink, it just needs a little bit of room. So I'm just going to cut those off, and then I'm going to fit them in, and then that's going to be it for the rear wall for now. All right, there's something going on here. It doesn't seem to want to go in, but I have a feeling it's just because there's a lot of stuff going on. Everything measures out properly, so I think I'm just going to leave this for now, and when I get a little bit of help, another set of hands, then I'll fit it together and make sure everything's good just before I bore the holes. But honestly, I really think it's okay. I think it's just a little bit too much for one person to jiggle in. So now it's time to work on the other wall. I'm going to spare you more time lapse of me cutting mortise and tenons. I'm sure you've got the idea by now. What I've done is I've moved on to the front wall, which has a 16-foot span and is approximately 9.5 feet off the ground. I've decided to make the braces quite a bit bigger. These are 4x6 white oak, and they are on a 3-foot run as opposed to the back, which is sort of 4x4 5/8 white oak on a 2-foot span. So these are just a little bit beefier. The reason for that is I want them to be a little bit stronger because of that big span, and I also I want it to look beefy. There's a aesthetic to this. I want this thing to look really stout, and it's going to, you know, with all these big timbers. So that's my thinking. I had to use my jig for cutting the 6-inch mortises just in a slightly different manner. I had to use it kind of in one position and slide it over to make these 8-inch mortises. They have to be bigger, obviously, to accommodate the bigger brace. And that's really about it. It's more or less the same procedure over and over again. I just have to finish these up, and then we can start to move on. Very happy to report that the big wall is now done. I've got everything cut to size. I've got the braces in. I put these big yellow straps on just to hold her tight. You know, make sure everything's good. It could probably go just a little bit more, but let's not push it. And let's take a look, see how we did. and we did very well. That's perfectly square. Perfectly square. So I'm happy about that. These joints are all nice and tight. All right, let's check out this side. Hopefully it's the same. You know, got her nice and tight. All the joints are snug, just the way I want them. Put this in, and yep. There's actually just a little wave right here, probably from when I sawmilled it. It's kind of messing things up a little bit, but right there you can see it's good. Yeah, this is nice. Look at that. It's just a little bit off, but there's a little wave here, so I bet you it's pretty much perfect, to be honest with you. It should be, because all the numbers are right. Awesome. Let's take a measuring tape and see what the difference is top to bottom. Okay, up here at the top, it's exactly 16 feet, which isn't a surprise because that's what the mortises were laid out to. And now let's check the bottom. Yeah, I predict the bottom is going to be a little bit tighter than 16 feet just because of that crown up there, right? And yeah, it's half an inch. So 15 feet, 11 1/2 inch, which half an inch over all of that, I think that's pretty good. So I'm happy with that. Awesome. So there they are, the front and rear walls, sitting one on top of the other just to make it easy, flat surface and all that. I'm really happy. I've just got to figure out now how to make the pegs and get this thing all joined up and I guess ready to put up. So that's all I've got for you for this week. That's a fair bit, actually. It took me quite a while to get through it all. I really appreciate you guys watching and checking in. Hopefully you will please subscribe. Let's see if we can get something for you for next week, all right? Take care.